Kia ora, my name is Aleise Puketapu from Plant and Food Research in Te Puke. I'm a scientist here within our Kiwifruit entomology team, and I also oversee the Bay of Plenty arm of the National Brown Marmorated Stink Bug or BMSB surveillance program. The program is run by the Ministry for Primary Industries as a means of keeping an eye out for this unwanted pest and as an early warning system should it make its way here. So this is the second year that the Bay of Plenty has been included in the National Surveillance Program, and that's thanks to support and funding from Zespri and Kiwifruit Vine Health. In this video, we'll become more familiar with the monitoring techniques and technologies that we use in the National Surveillance Program. Although there is no immediate need for these traps here in New Zealand, we're thinking about the future and preparing the kiwifruit industry should we ever find ourselves in a situation where we need to use them. The traps that we'll be looking at today are intended to help us keep track of BMSB numbers, their movement, and to help us make informed decisions about control. First things first, let's take a look at the equipment that we'll need to set a trap in the field. These are the Tress Ferricon BMSB dual high load pheromone lures. These are preloaded with aggregation pheromones that are attractive to BMSB. Aggregation pheromones signal for individuals of the same species to gather or group together, and attracts target pests to the general area of the lure rather than a targeted site. And this is the reason that we need to inspect vegetation surrounding the traps. Always wear gloves when handling pheromone lures. This is the Tress Ferricon clear sticky panel that we place underneath the pheromone lure. The sticky panels should be replaced as required. A handy rule of thumb for this is to replace the panel either when it's no longer sticky to the touch or when around 40% of the panel is covered. This is a beating sheet. We use this to help monitor vegetation around the trap. This one was given to me by the Ministry for Primary Industries, but you can also purchase these from Entomological Supplies Australia. This is a beating stick. You can use any sort of stick as long as it's large enough to agitate vegetation. It's important to always have collection jars when monitoring the traps. You can use any kind of container or jar with a lid, just make sure the insects collected can't escape. Tweezers and scissors are good to have handy. They're useful to remove stink bugs from the sticky panels. In a kiwifruit orchard situation, it is recommended that the traps be placed outside of the orchard block itself, in nearby trees or vegetation that produces fleshy fruits, particularly on the gully borders or orchard boundaries. Traps can also be placed into cryptomeria shelter belts, as this is a recognised host of BMSB. Trap placement will vary from orchard to orchard, and this should be assessed on a case-by-case basis. We'll share more information about trap placement, monitoring periods and spacing over time. We're still learning ourselves, so once we know, we'll disseminate that information. The BMSB traps should be assessed on a fortnightly basis and only in mild weather conditions. Insects tend to hide away more when the weather is wet and windy. With gloves on, place the block in the middle of the strap lure and feed the screw and washer through the holes. Lures and traps should be set approximately 1.2 metres off the ground and be accessible for monitoring and servicing. Attach the lures to the tree using your screwdriver. The pheromone lures should always be set above the sticky panel so that stink bugs that might travel up the vegetation to the lure are intercepted by the panel. So make sure to allow enough space in your chosen location for the sticky panel. When handling the sticky panel, make sure that the protective sheets remain on the trap when separating it from the pack. This will make it easier to set the panel. If using screws and washers to set the panel, push a screw tip through one of each of the pre-cut holes in the top and the bottom of the trap. Fasten the screws to the vegetation using a screwdriver. Cable ties can also be used if needed. Once the panel is securely in place, peel the plastic covering off the front and the back of the panel. There are 3 steps to follow when monitoring BMSB traps. The first is to have a good look at the vegetation within a 5 to 10 metre radius of the trap. Start at the outer margins and work your way in towards the trap. Make sure to check the underside of leaves and around fruit clusters, as this is where stink bugs like to hang out. The next step is to do some beat sampling using a beat sheet and a beat stick. Stink bugs tend to drop when disturbed, and beet sampling takes advantage of this behaviour. Place your beet sheet underneath some vegetation near the lures and strike the vegetation 3 times. Check your beet sheet and collect all insects that resemble stink bug, nymphs and adults. The final step is to assess the sticky panel and lures. Check the front and back of the panel for stink bug, nymphs and adults. If you find suspect insects on the panel itself, gently lift them off using tweezers or use scissors to cut off the appropriate part of the panel. All insect samples should be collected into bottles and labelled with a date and location of collection. If you think that you've found a BMSB, you should report it straight away. Don't kill it, catch it, take a photo and call the MPI hotline on 0800 80 99 66 or get in touch with Kiwifruit Vine Health. Their number is 0800 665 825 and they will work with you on any reports or finds of concern. So I hope you've learned a bit more about the monitoring techniques and the technologies that we use in the National Surveillance Programme. Thank you to Zespri and Kiwifruit Vine Health for supporting this work over the last 2 years. If you have any questions or inquiries about the brown marmorated stink bug, please feel free to contact me or anyone at Kiwifruit Vine Health. Thank you for watching. Ka kite!